be focused for people who are pursuing graphic design or publication design. So the purpose of today's demonstration is to make you aware of the interface of InDesign, and later on the series I'll also be covering Illustrator and a little bit of Photoshop, but primarily it is going to be about InDesign. Yes, so those who are joining in, please let me know in the comment section. I'm seeing you guys here in the comment section, and I would really encourage you to type out all your queries and any confusions if you have while following along. Once I'm done with the demonstration, the video is going to be available even for later online access, and you can always put your comments and queries there as well. And in the next series, in the next video, I'll try to address to all those queries. Okay, so having said that, let's begin with the journey. And what you see on the screen is the InDesign's interface, and I'll just quickly run you through the objective of today's setup. So and how this online lessons are gonna work. So basically every session is going to be of somewhere around 45 to 1 hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour, and during that session I'll be demonstrating something on the screen, and once we are done with the demonstration, then you can ask your questions in the comment box, or you can just sort of make a request in the comment that you need to talk to me personally. Then I'm gonna switch to Hangout and we can have a conversation and a live troubleshooting as well. Okay, so let's begin. So when you open InDesign, then this is what you see on the screen. Given that you have the latest version, or at least 2019 version of the InDesign, I'm using the same. So you click on create new file, and you get to see this dialog box. Now before I start defining a document size, I want you to tell something about InDesign and why do we use InDesign. Primarily this is a program which is dedicated for desktop publishing, and this entire interface allows you to effectively work with publications. And many times, because it's been around 10 years, a decade almost, that I'm teaching InDesign. So many times people ask me that, sir, why should we choose InDesign over Illustrator? Because Illustrator is also kind of gives you the same kind of tools, and everything which is there in Illustrator looks very much similar to InDesign. So why do we need to learn another complicated software for doing the same thing? So actually Illustrator and InDesign are very different programs. Illustrator is for graphic designing. It's it offers you a set of tools and an environment which enables you to work with just pardon me a second, I think somebody's there outside. Let's just 2 minutes. Extremely sorry for that hindrance. I was talking about Illustrator. So Illustrator offers you a set of tools which is more inclined towards giving you an environment which is suitable for developing graphics, while at the other hand InDesign is not something which is so friendly to let you design your graphic. But what InDesign is for is letting you create nice layouts and create multiple page documents, create interactive web documents, and many other things. And the features like data merge is really awesome for InDesign. So as we progress along this course, I'll introduce you one by one basic to intermediate to advanced things in InDesign. So right now what we see on the screen is the new dialog box, and In the new dialog box, I'm gonna start with a plain A4 size sheet. You have the choices here listed. If you are opening it for the very first time, you probably would not see any options here. So do not wonder where these went. These are actually saved. These presets are there in these 3 tabs. So you can understand what it is actually utilized for. So either you are going to use it for print purpose or web publication or something for UX UI. So for mobile devices, InDesign can also be used. However, people rarely use it for mobile devices because there is XD now. Anyway, so we'll be focusing on print. So I'm going to click on the print and then choose A4 size document from here. On the right hand side, you have few settings. You can define a name for the document, set up the width and height for custom sizes, and then you have the option of orientation. So either you could choose portrait or landscape. By default, the setting portrait would be available to you. And just quickly go through these. And then there are this something called margins, bleed and slug. So bleed and slug is something which right now we are not gonna look at, but if somebody is interested in learning about it, just put it there in the comment section. In the next video I'm going to cover up that also. Now a couple of settings which are important is these 2 things. So first thing is number of columns and the gutter space and the margins. So right now I'm not gonna do any changes to these, and just click on the preview button so that I can have a look at how the document is going to look like, and I'm going to say create. That is it. Now right now what do we have here on the screen is a blank document with a margin of 3 points all around and 1 single column. Okay, now when I say column, I am referring to this entire box as columns. So in the language of graphic design, when we try to lay out things based on grids, column is one of the elements which helps us aligning things vertically. Okay, so we have 1 single column right now, and before I go ahead, I want to show you how you can increase the number of columns or set up the margin. Okay, so as Parmar is asking me a question, can you tell me which one is the best software for illustrations? There are many actually, but if you have Adobe Suite, I would suggest that Photoshop can be a good program to begin with, and depending upon the kind of illustrations you are looking at, if it is more of a bitmap oriented work you are going for, where you want realistic rendering, then Photoshop is the software. Otherwise you can stick to Illustrator, because Illustrator is also very nice when it comes to doing vector illustrations. I hope that solves your answer, that solves your problem. And yeah, if any more further questions, just put it in the comment section. Okay, now let's come back to this, and yeah, so we are gonna go to the layout and then choose margin and columns, the second option which we have here. Click on margin and columns, and alright, I'm going to hit escape first because it's showing me the tooltip. No, I don't want these. Oh yeah, I got it. Oh, this is very irritating actually. Yeah, no, it's gone. Okay, so these fields actually denote the margins on the top, bottom, inside and outside. Now unlike Word or any other desktop publishing program or word processors, instead of left and right we have inside and outside. So basically think of this publication as a multi-paged document, where inside would be the spine where the document is supposed to be bounded, and the outside would be the pages from where we flip the document. So inside is going to be on the left hand side and outside is going to be on the right hand side. Now when we started with the new document, there was an option of facing pages. So the way InDesign puts up all the pages inside the work area is it treats the entire flow as if the book is there and all the pages are taken out from the book and then laid in front of you. So we will see when we create multiple documents, okay, multiple pages, I'm sorry. So then this P0 is actually InDesign has a tendency of by default keeping the measurement convention to picas. So this is what is denoted by P. However, if you want it to be denoted or put in inches, you can do that. So what I can do here is, let's say that I want ½ inches on the top or 1 inch on the top. So I'm gonna just type in 1 and give a suffix of IN. Okay, now if I click on the next field, you see it automatically turns into 6 picas, which is equal to 1 inches. Okay, and it changed in all of them. Why? Because all of those are linked together. So I'm gonna just switch off the link, and then let's say that on the top I want 1 inch, and on the inside and on the outside I want 0.5 inches. So these settings, there's no logic behind why I have selected these numbers. I'm just showing it for the sake of demonstration. You can decide what suits you. Well, so this was about setting margins. Now about the columns, in the same settings you can also find this irritating tooltip pops up every time I open it. Well, so number of columns can be increased by clicking on these. So I can have 3 columns, and these are not something which is going to get printed when you export it in a PDF file or export it for printing. This is just for suggestion. This is just for helping you with the layout, and the gutter space is the space in between 2 columns. So you can increase or decrease the gutter space as well. Okay, so the default value is 1 pica. So I can choose let's say 0.25 inches. Okay, and then say okay. All right, now let's familiarize ourselves with the tools which is there on the toolbar on the left hand side, and let's just discuss the interface elements a little, because people who have used Photoshop would find it rather difficult and confusing because the icons look different, the way things are arranged are similar, but a lot of things doesn't make sense, much of a sense, when we shift from Illustrator or Photoshop to InDesign. For instance, this pages panel, it's something which is only there in InDesign. Okay, now in Illustrator you have artboards. In Photoshop, the recent version is also having artboards, but pages is unique to InDesign only. Now before I move ahead, I just want you to show a few navigational controls. So you can zoom in and zoom out inside the interface by holding Alt and then increase scrolling up or scrolling down. Alternatively, you can say Control plus and Control minus, same as Photoshop, and then say Control 0. Okay, for making it fit to the screen. Now those who are listening to me right now, I would request that the moment I say a particular shortcut, just please put it in the comment section so all of our viewers can learn from that, the people who are entering the session late. Okay, thank you. Well, so for zooming in, Control plus, zooming out, Control minus, for fitting it to the screen, Control 0. Okay, now Control 1 is another shortcut which makes it fit to the 100% view. You can see it shows 100% right now on the document tab here. So the shortcut is Control 1. I'm again gonna set it back to Control 0. Okay, to make it fit to the screen. Perfect. Now on the left hand side, just quickly go through the tools. I'm not gonna go all through all of them. Just few basic ones I'll show, and I have quite an interesting exercise for today. And while doing that exercise, we will have a look at these tools in further detail. So as far as the interface goes, on the top, this horizontal bar you see, the complicated horizontal bar you see is known as command panel, and you have so many tiny small options here, and all of those are very, very, very important. Now on the left hand side, of course, you have a toolbar. You can make it 2 column as well by clicking on this tiny right pointing arrows. Yep. So those who want to use this, this is also fine. I ideally prefer this one. Okay, and now on the right hand side you have floating palettes or panels. So pages, layers and links. Layers, I have not used it a lot in InDesign, though I would suggest and encourage that. It's really amazing feature in InDesign, and a lot of times it helps us in organizing the work really beautifully. So maybe in intermediate sessions when we have after a couple of days, I'll tell you about the layers. It works very much same as Illustrator's layer. Okay, let's go back to pages and quickly see what pages panel can do. So the name says all about itself. So pages, it is something to deal with the pages, and most of the time I'll be spending time in here organizing the pages in the document. So I can just click on new button to add a new page and keep on doing so till the time I have all the pages I want. So I have just created 7 new pages and added it. Okay, I can delete also. I can make multiple selections as well by selecting it and then control clicking on the pages. Okay, I can make sequential selection by holding shift and then clicking and defining a range, and if I want to get rid of all of them, I simply have to click on this trash can icon here. Okay, and then let's say control 0 to make it fit to the screen. So that is how you work with pages panel. Now in detail I'm going to be posting videos about all these panels and what do they do. So I would suggest that please have a look at the upcoming video series, the short video series, small videos I'll be making and dedicating those to specific panels and features of InDesign. All right. Okay, now yeah, so the first tool on the toolbar, which you see on the left hand side, is known as selection tool, and what it does is very simple. It lets you select objects. In case if I have multiple objects and I'm gonna draw a few of them by using these rectangle, ellipse and polygon tool. Okay, so I'm going to make few multiple objects. Okay, so Fiza is here and she is saying slow down sir. Fiza, do not worry, these sessions are gonna get recorded and you can access it anytime, and I'll really try to slow it down a little bit, but YouTube has this awesome feature that you can hear me at a slow down pace as well. So once the broadcast is over, you can just slow down the video and then have a look at it. Okay, so Fiza, I also request you to just help wrong pencil, I don't know the name of her or him, so in typing the keyboard shortcuts I'm saying. Okay, and there'll be a delay in the broadcast, so when I say something, expect at least 5 minutes, or when you put something as a comment, expect me to receive it and address that problem at least with a 5-minute delay. Okay, now let's get back. Okay, now so I have multiple objects in here, and the very first tool actually allows me to make selections by just clicking on that object, and I can move that anywhere. Okay, now if I click in the middle and then try to move it, it's not gonna work. You also have to understand the properties of this object and how the selection tools is going to interact with them. Right now this object has only outline, and that I can see by these two settings. Now these two settings refer to the fill color and the stroke color, same as Illustrator fill color and stroke color, and this also works on the basis of priority. So if I select the fill color is going to get prioritized, and if I click on this one, the stroke is going to get prioritized. So what I can do for filling something inside this is prioritize the fill and then pick a color from the color bar. Okay, all right, perfect. Now if I go inside and use selection tool for clicking anywhere on the object, it selects the entire object. Now if I try to do it here in this case, it's not gonna work. See, you just have to ensure that you are clicking on the stroke of it, because it does not have any fill applied to it. However, you can make multiple selections by hitting shift on the keyboard, keep it pressed, and then click on another objects. You can also click and then drag a marquee around the objects which you want to select. You can also partially just touch the objects in order to make make it part of the selection. So this is what selection tool lets you do. The shortcut or hotkey, rather I should say, is V. So if you hit V on the keyboard, it toggles to the first tool on the toolbar. Now on the right hand side we have direct selection tool. Now direct selection tool allows you to select sub objects. When I say sub objects, I simply mean the objects components. So this circle is made out of vertices and line segments. So those will be the sub objects of this particular object, and if I want to manipulate those, I can simply click on the vertices, or we also call it anchor points in Adobe's language. So I can select the anchor points, and with the handles I can move them. So I can click on the handles and move them, change the shape of the object. And what I'm doing here is using the direct selection tool for selecting the sub objects and then manipulating it. Okay, so let's just get rid of this one and this one. Now we know these couple of tools. Below that we have page tool. Now page tool is for selecting the entire page and doing things with that. So I very rarely use this tool, but this is a very useful tool. So in future lessons I'll tell you the application of page tool. For now, let's not complicate our lives. And then we have gap tool. Now gap tool is also an amazing tool. Right now we do not have any object on this page, so that's why it's showing us that we can't do much with it. So for using the gap tool, what we have to do is create some objects. So I'm gonna quickly create couple of rectangles. Okay, and let's use gap tool and go in between those objects, and then see how it detects the gap in between. So I can simply click and then pull the gap, and it resizes the objects but keeps the gap maintained. So this is a really nice tool. If you want to move both the objects and keep the gap there, you can hold Alt and then do that. It lets you push object horizontally. Okay, now that is what gap tool is all about. And below that you have content collector and content placer tool. I'm going to show these two in a separate video. And then you have a tool which is mostly we will be using while working with InDesign, and that's text tool. Now earlier when I was telling you the difference between Illustrator and InDesign, one of the powerful features what InDesign offers is the ability to control text, and it's one of the best text processing programs out there. Even if you compare it with Microsoft Word, I think InDesign offers you more features than Microsoft Word. It's really powerful the way InDesign handles text, and not just a couple of paragraphs. I'm talking about 1,000 pages. And the beauty of working with InDesign is to be able to create paragraph styles and character styles, and these things I'm gonna cover up in the next video. I hope you'd come back again and then watch me showing all those things in the next video and realize the power of InDesign. So basically the text tool, if you click and hold your cursor on top of it, shows just couple of tools, unlike Photoshop in Illustrator where you see abundance of options under the text tool. It has only two. One is for type and another is for typing on a path. Very simple. But this type tool has so much to offer. We will just quickly have a look at it. Now before I start demonstrating the text tool, just one thing, this is very important. A lot of time what happens, people get frustrated while working with text tools. They expect it to work just by clicking, and this is something which they don't realize, that InDesign does not have point text. It only can operate if you define a paragraph, and that is done by clicking and then dragging and defining an area. Now you can type in. Now you can type. Okay, but don't expect it to work like Photoshop or Illustrator, where you could just select the text tool and then click, because they have point text. InDesign do not have the concept of point text. InDesign only works as paragraph text. Okay, so that's the text tool. Now notice one thing, when I change my selection of tools, or I do something here on the interface, the command panel changes. Right now have a look at the options available in the command panel. They are in context with the first tool selected, which is selection tool. Okay, yeah, the moment I switch to text tool, the command panel will have different options popping out. Okay, so many options we have in relation to the text. So I'm gonna post a separate video on just covering up how text tool works, because you have character formatting, then paragraph formatting, and so much of things going on that if I cover all those things here in this video, it's going to get like 4 or 5 hours long video. Well, so text tool lets you type things, as simple as that, but you just have to remember, you need to click and then drag to define a paragraph. Now post that, you have line tool, the most difficult tool in this world. It lets you create lines. I'm just joking, but it's very handy sometimes. Then you have pen tool, the good old pen tool. People mostly who start learning InDesign, they have some experience with Photoshop or Illustrator, and while working with those couple of programs, they come to know that InDesign is something which is really celebrated in the publication and graphic design world. So they try their hand in it. So if you have used pen tool earlier, it is the same good old pen tool, nothing changed. Okay, nothing changed. It works exactly the way it behaves in Illustrator. Lets you create shapes, and you can decide what is going to go inside the shape in terms of color or in terms of content. When I say content, that means I can also fill inside a bitmap image, the way we do it in Illustrator by using clipping mask. So you can make all sort of shapes and then fill inside color, a solid color, a gradient, or a bitmap image. Now moving away from the pen tool, the same pen tool is there. So you have add anchor point, delete anchor point, convert anchor point, and all those things. Now then you have pencil, smooth, and eraser. We will see these tools in upcoming sessions. For now, I think I'll just quickly show what these do. So you have a sear tool for cutting up so let's say that you have a line segment, you want to chop it off from the middle, you just need to click here, and it is being divided into 2 different line segments. So that's simple. Then you have a free transform tool. So now ideally, whenever you create an object, you should get these transformation controls by default, and that is as good as the free transform tool. Okay, but in case if you come along a situation where these transformation tools are not showing up, and that happens quite a lot in InDesign, because there is a shortcut Control Shift B. If you click Control Shift B, well, I think they have fixed it now, but because in earlier version of InDesign it used to remove the transformation controls. Anyway, this is for free transform. And then you have rotate tool, you have scale tool, and you have sear tool, and these are very, very self-explanatory. Just explore it, and in case you fall into any issues, let me know in the comment section. I'm gonna cover it separately. Okay, now let's get rid of this one and move to these couple of tools here. So this is gradient swatch tool, and then you have gradient feather tool. Works very much same as Illustrator's gradient tool. The gradient feather is nice. So then again, while applying these tools, I'm going to elaborate further on it. Then you have node tool, color theme tool. It's very much like color picker, but slightly advanced than that, because it lets you pick, you know, a bunch of colors from reference. Okay. Now then you have hand tool. The same hand tool is there in Photoshop and Illustrator, and I never click on the hand tool in order to use that, because I would suggest that you also should not switch to this tool. You should always hold space bar and then click and then move it. This is the most efficient way of accessing the hand tool, because it only temporarily switches the tool to hand tool, and once you are done, you can let go the space bar and you are back with the tool which you are working with. Then you have zoom tool. I showed you earlier already. You can use zoom tool by hitting Z on the keyboard, and then drag and then create a marquee along to zoom into a specific region. But I would always suggest use Control plus and Control minus, or use Alt and then zoom up and zoom out. Okay. Now below that, I have already explained the color selectors for fill and stroke. Notice these couple of options we have here. So this tiny square, if you hover your cursor on top of it, it is going to show formatting affects container. That means if this is selected, it is going to affect the container, and if this is selected, it is going to affect the text. And understanding this is very important, because it's really going to be difficult for you to understand, and it's very confusing also sometimes. So let's say that if I have a paragraph, and if I'm gonna switch to let me just fill it up with placeholder text. So I have something typed here. I'm going to remove this, select all of it, increase the size of it a little bit. By the way, how I'm increasing the size is Control Shift and period button on the keyboard. Control Shift and period, or the full stop button on the keyboard. So Control Shift comma gradually reduces the size of it, and Control Shift period gradually increases the size of it. Alright, so understand the concept of container and content, because this is one of the basic features or techniques of InDesign, how it manages the content. Well, so this paragraph box, the bounding box which you see, the thin blue line with tiny things here and there on the edges, is actually the container, and inside the container we have a paragraph. Okay. Now, okay, so Bindu is restless now, she's awake. Now right now, if container is selected and if I try to fill a color inside, you can double click on this and then choose the color from here, or you can straight away just ensure that this is prioritized and pick it from the color bar here. So I'm gonna fill up a color, a yellow color, and see if you were expecting, because we have selected a paragraph, this color should affect the color of the text, then that is not the case, because the content is the container is selected right now. Now if I want to change the color of the text, I have to make sure that this formatting affects text should be selected. So you click on this and it's going to highlight it with T, and now if I change the color of it, now by default when you switch to text, then in the colors you get only grayscale colors. Okay, now it is again a difficult, sometimes people face difficulty in wondering what happened to all the colors, and is it possible to have a text color of a other than black to white gradient. So it is very much possible. You just have to come here on the top right side of the colors panel and click here and then choose RGB or CMYK. Prefer CMYK while working with InDesign, because the intent is printing, and we'll go for a process color printing most likely. So now you could choose from any of the colors available and then see how it is affecting the color of the text, not the container. So this is what it means. All right, I'm just gonna keep it aside for a while. Okay, and while we are at it, I'm gonna quickly show you few things relevant to how we can change the alignment of the text. So if you just select it and then try to look for those options here in the command panel, it's not gonna show you because you have selected the container, okay, not the content inside. So you're gonna double click on it and select the content and then choose the alignment you want it to follow. Okay, so there are various alignment options. We are going to go through all these in full detail later on in separate videos. Okay, now these few options which we have, let's just quickly get done with these. So I'm gonna create a rectangle and then show you what these three options are. These are very simple to understand. The first one denotes the solid color, the second one is for applying a gradient, and third is for applying nothing at all. And as you can see right now, the third one is highlighted because the object which we have created does not have any fill inside it. And if I click on this one, it is gonna take the last color which I have utilized and then gonna apply it as a fill on the selected object. Now if I want to choose a gradient inside, I can simply click on this gradient, and by default it's gonna apply a gradient of black to white. Now we can further play around with the gradient by clicking on the gradient tool and then opening up the gradient panel and then work with it. So Windows, you can look for a gradient window somewhere, it is there. But right now let's not deviate away from it. We can control this gradient as much as we want, but right now let's just complete the tour of the interface. Now below that we have the normal window mode, and we have few different viewing options available to us, which allows us to see bleed, slug, and a presentation which Bindu, she's really restless. Usually she sleeps through the entire day, but right now because the fan is not on. Hey Bindu, come here. Sit down. Okay. Anyway, so preview, so preview mode will remove any of those guidelines and column indications and give you a very clear preview of how it's gonna look, as good as how it's going to get printed. You can switch to it by just pressing W on the keyboard. It's a very handy hotkey. So once you are you keep on checking how it looks in the preview by hitting W. Okay, all right, now let's get rid of it and start with today's objective. So I'm just gonna show you something which I was working on, and I on purpose kept it in just the middle so that I can complete it with all of you guys. So let's close this file, and I'm going to open up this what do you say, you can say it a pamphlet, just a poster, let's call it a pamphlet, and then it's about a resort, Konkan Paradise. So I created this logo in Illustrator, just a font I have selected from Google Fonts. I'll share the link and a few images I have. So I'm gonna show you a glimpse of the image folder I have set up while working with this project. So if I go to my folder and then check inside the images, so this is the folder I have, Konkan Paradise, and this is how I want you guys to set up your folders also. So first thing is, you create a folder by the name images. Ensure that all the images which you plan on using inside the project should be kept inside. Let's go back, and all the logos and everything, I have few social logos here as PNG format. I have a main logo which I have created in Illustrator resting here, and outside I have a text document where I have a habit of keeping all the assets and the links from where I'm using downloading that, because I need to give credit to those people also. And then I have the INDD file on which I was working. So all of this is inside the project folder. You are also supposed to set up the project folder like this. Now I have downloaded few more images which is outside the project folder, so I'm gonna select those. These two are the remaining ones. Cut it, close this one, I don't need the Chrome, and paste it inside the images folder as well. So these two images I downloaded but kept it outside. Okay, now if I go to InDesign, let's quickly have a look at what do we have here. So this layout has one fancy looking a peel off sort of thing in the center, through which an image is revealing itself, and then on the top I have the logo. Below I have some information. Below that I have couple of places where I want to show up, probably they have few plans. It's a resort, Konkan Paradise. It's a resort, and I plan on giving some details. These details can be anything, so let's not worry about what the contents would be, but rather than learning how it is supposed to be arranged within a layout and how we can utilize InDesign for doing that. Well, so this tool is really helpful, and this is known as frame tool, set of frame tools. So I have used rectangle frame tool to denote the areas where the content is going to go. Okay, now before we learn about bringing in content into InDesign, we have to learn how InDesign deals with assets. When I say assets, I refer to images. It can be of any format, either PSD or Illustrator or PNG, JPEG, TIFF. So regardless of the format, if the format is an image format, how InDesign deals with it, let's understand. So for importing things inside InDesign, we press Ctrl D. Ctrl D is the shortcut for placing thing inside InDesign. So I'm gonna hit Ctrl D on the keyboard and then go to my root folder or project folder, look for images, go inside, and I'm going to select either any of the images I have. So let's pick this one and say open. Now if I click and then drag, let me just show it again. So what happens when I import an image, it gets loaded into my cursor, and now InDesign is asking me where I need to place the image. If I want the image to be placed on this location, okay, and I just simply click, then the image is going to imported in the actual size. Okay, it will retain its actual dimension and then try to find out as much as space on the page, and then be there. But if you want it to be in a specific location, you can define that by clicking and then dragging. Notice how it is maintaining its proportion, so it's not distorting while you do it. You just click and then drag, and let's say that I want it in half of the page. When you reach close to the half of page, InDesign will automatically give you this hint. This is also known as smart guide, and you can just let go of the cursor and the image is going to get imported there. Okay, now we can also import multiple images in InDesign, but before we do so, let's understand how it behaves after importing the image. What all can we do with this? So if I hover my cursor on top of it, I see this transparent circle in the center, and that transparent circle is known as content grabber. So here also the same concept is there. There is content and there is a container. Okay, now this time the container is slightly different than what it was. So basically what I did here, I have held Alt on the keyboard and clicked and dragged it from the corner, and I'm also holding Shift so that the increment happens proportionally. Okay, and we will try to understand the content and container concept from an images point of view. and how it works in InDesign. So I have a content grabber and I have a container. So let's first add a stroke to the container. So let's just prioritize the stroke and then select a black stroke, and I'm also gonna select this and then prioritize the fill and then fill a color inside. Okay, it's a very dirty looking yellow, I don't like this, so let's choose it. Oh my god, I'm so bad at picking colors. Oh, that was nice. I want a bright yellow. Yeah, this is fine. Okay. Well, so I have a black outline of the container and a yellow fill inside. Now there's a content sitting inside the container, and what happens if I increase the size of the content and let the container be of the same size? So I can hold shift and then click and then drag it from the corner, but as I do so I realize that the transformation is happening from only one side, and I don't want that. I want it to happen from all sides, so it should increase its size from the center, so transform from the center, and that can be done by adding Alt along with the shift key. And if I click and then drag, see, the moment I go outside the bounding box, we see a translucent preview of the image, and if I let go of the mouse button and all the keys, the image is actually clipped. So we were not changing the size of the container but just the content, and that's possible in InDesign. So I can separately increase the size of the content and separately increase the size of the container. Okay, but what if I want to increase both of them simultaneously? And that can be done by selecting the container and then holding Control and then clicking and dragging. Now this time you see that not just the container but the content is also scaling along. Now in this case I see that the proportion is not maintained and the transformation is happening from only one side. So to control the proportion along with Control, I'm going to hold Shift. Okay, now what it does, it constrains the proportion and also let me change the size of the container along with the content inside it. Now if I want the transformation to happen from the center, then I can also add Alt key. So now I have full control over the image. Okay, so the container is transforming, the content is following along, it's not losing its proportion, and all of it is happening from the center. So win-win situation. So basically all the modifier keys in combination with clicking on any of the corner and then dragging it to transform the image. So this is how content and container relation is there in InDesign when it comes to handling images. I can also click the content grabber and simply move it outside to make something like this. Okay, now what else can we do with this container? Let's say that I want to make this content fit to the entire content. Okay, container. So I can simply select this and press a shortcut Control Shift Alt C on the keyboard. What it does, Control Alt Shift C, all the modifier keys plus C. So if I click that, hit that, it's going to proportionally fill the content inside the container. To know more about the fitting options, you should go to Object menu and choose out the fitting menu, and inside you will get all the options. I would suggest that you try out all of these. Try to sort of perform an experiment by just playing around with the container and content and understand what fill frame proportionally does and how is it different than fit content proportionally. It's very once you do it, you will have a better grasp on it rather than me showing it. Okay, now what else can we do with this container? Notice when I click on it, on the top right corner we see this yellow box popping up. Now this box is for, if I click on this, it's going to make you see these diamonds appearing on all four corners of the rectangle, and what it is actually is it lets you put a curvature on the corner. So if you click and then drag, it lets you make the corners curvy. Now what if I just want this corner to be more curvy? in relation with these. I can hold control on the keyboard and click and then drag on it. No, I'm so sorry, I think shift is the key. Yeah, so shift and then click and drag, and it lets you control the curvature of just one selected vertices. Okay, shift drag one vertices only, and if you click and drag, all the 4 vertices will move along. Okay, so I think we have fairly understood. Yeah, Y Verma is saying hello. So we have fairly understood how the image works in InDesign and how we can control things inside the container, make it fit to the container, change the curvature of the corners and all those things. So do experiment with it, and also do not forget to experiment with fitting options. This is going to be very, very useful while working with layouts. So I'm going to delete this, and every time I need to do some experimentation and show you things separately, I'll come back to this blank file. Let's go to this what we started with. Alright, so let's try to build up the same thing in here. Okay, so I have showed you how to work with images and fill it inside the container. Now the thing is, can we fill inside a random shape? So for that it's very easy. You just have to use pen tool and create a shape it has to be an enclosed figure, then only it's gonna work. And once you are done, ensure that you are switching to the selection tool and the shape should be selected, and you just have to say Ctrl D on the keyboard, and then you can pick up the image which you want to fill inside. The moment you do that, you notice that it's not actually fitting inside the entire container. So you can use the shortcut Ctrl Shift Alt plus C on the keyboard to fill the frame proportionally, and then you can pick the content grabber and then move the image and find out the right location of the image inside the container. This is what exactly I did in that exercise I showed. Now the next thing I'm gonna show you is how did I draw these rectangular spaces. So I have just used the frame tool, rectangular frame tool. You can click and then drag. You can hold shift for getting a square. Okay, and for making copy of these, you can hold alt, select the selection tool and then click on this. The moment you hit alt and then take your cursor on top of it, see the cursor is changing. Now it has a shadow cursor along with this. That simply means that if I click and drag, I'll be able to create a copy of this one. Okay, I can make more copies. Now InDesign has this amazing feature. The moment you drag it out, look at these two notations we get. Look here, notice. If I make a copy of this, InDesign will automatically tell us and then inform us that okay, you are now at the same distance in between these two objects, and this is really useful. Now what if I want to make these 3 rectangle squares fit inside the area in between the margins we have? So I'll just click and then drag it, all 3 of them, align the left side here and ensure that all 3 of them should be selected, and then click and then drag it here. So automatically it is going to do a proportional scaling and increase the gap size also. You can do the same for the height as well, and this is how you get the placeholders. And these can be filled with images. So I can select this one, say Ctrl D, and like earlier I can simply double click on the image and it's gonna fit it inside. Now we all can see that the entire image is not being visible here, so it got cropped because the aspect ratio of the container is not matching with the aspect ratio of the image. So you can use content grabber and hold shift for maintaining the alignment. You can do it without the shift also. Freely you can move the image and find out the focus spot of the image which you want to reveal through the container. Okay, So let's just quickly get rid of all these. Now we understand how we can make placeholders. Now these placeholders I have kept extra for because I want, and you have seen it already, I just wanted to select these, hold shift and then change its curvature a little from the bottom, okay, and then fill it up with white color. And that can be done by ensuring that this is selected, fill is prioritized, and clicking on this. Now it did not do much, but actually now white color is filled into this. Okay, let's try filling black, and then it will be more prominent. So there is white background, so white on white is not making much of sense. Let's say that I want to put some drop shadow in here to just isolate it from the background. So I can select this, go to the FX menu on the top, yeah, this menu here, and then click on this and then choose drop shadow. We are gonna go more detail, into the details of these menus in separate small videos. For now, just follow along that there is something called effects panel which has these options listed in that. Okay, so the drop shadow is selected right now, and we are seeing the settings in relation with the drop shadow, and the first option I see here is the blend mod. We can go into the details right now, but when you are working with drop shadow, do not play around with the blend mod much if you're not an advanced user. Then you have opacity set to 75%, which is alright, but the funny thing is that I don't see anything changing here. Why? Because the preview button is not selected, so you need to click on the preview button in order to see the changes happening in the layout. And I see that the drop shadow is very harsh, so I'm gonna just pull out the opacity somewhere around 40%, and don't hit enter. If you hit enter, it's gonna accept the values, and then again you have to go back to the effects settings. So just press tab on the keyboard to switch to the next option. Okay, distance, and I see that the drop shadow is looking more polite now, and angle is fine, but distance is too much. I can click on the arrow to decrease the distance. Yeah, so this looks fine to me, and I'm gonna say okay. Perfect. Alright, now those who are worried that what is going to happen with these cross lines showing up, don't worry. If I hit W and show you the preview, you actually are not going to see those objects at all. So unless it has a fill or a stroke applied to it, it is not going to get printed. Now I have this one already. What I'll do is I'm gonna quickly fill out an image inside. So I'm gonna pick this one, say open, okay, and maybe just push it here towards right a little. Okay, the image is huge compared to the container, and it is sort of hiding a lot of things. If you want to fit it to the container proportionally, you can try that shortcut Ctrl+Alt+Shift+C. that works very much for me, and then you can try increasing the size of it, and that can be done by holding Shift and Alt together and then clicking and dragging from the corner, and then I'm gonna adjust position the way I want it. Alright, so if I hit W, this is what you have. Now if you want an outline to be applied along, you can simply select this, prioritize the stroke, and then let's apply an outline of black color. Perfect. Okay, now if you want to further play around with the stroke settings, there is a stroke panel separately. Okay, I'm gonna give you a link for the strokes panel which explains how stroke panels work in Illustrator, but the strokes panel of InDesign is, I guess, 99% identical to what do we have in Illustrator. Alright, so I'll give you in the description that link. If I forgot, please remind in the comment. So if I hit W, I get to see this. Okay, now let's say that I don't want the outline. I simply have to just click on this button here, making sure that the stroke is prioritized. That's it. Okay, and I can apply a drop shadow on it or do multiple things. For now, just let it be. Now I'm going to quickly delete this one, and why did I delete it? Because I want to just copy it. Okay, like this, and make a copy on the right hand side as well. And it's easier because now I can simply select this, say Ctrl D, and change the image by double clicking this. Select this one, say Ctrl D, and double click to change the images. Okay, maybe not this one I have already used, so I'm gonna go with this one. Okay, and I think a compact frame would look better in this case. Okay, makes sense. All right, so I can fill these with information, so I'm just simply gonna use the text tool. Now I want you to understand this. The moment we are inside a frame or any of the object, what happens, the text cursor changes. It turns into a dotted circle. Now if I go outside, it is a rectangle. Notice the cursor. Now when you see something like this, that means if I click, the text is going to go inside the container. I do not want that in this case. So I want text to have its own container, so I'm going to define it inside its own container by clicking and dragging outside any of the shapes defined. Then I'm going to go to the type menu and choose place with placeholder text. Okay, and let's just get rid of the extra thing. And okay, a lot of peasants are fighting in my balcony. They also want to learn software, I believe, because after this lockdown, this is going to be a huge thing. People working from home, proficient in softwares, so prepare, guys. Now if I select this, I can change the distance between two lines by holding Alt and then using the arrow keys. Now these little techniques I'm going to cover in separate small videos. So character styling, character formatting, paragraph formatting, I'll make small videos, like 5-7 minutes videos, small. So okay, so let's reduce the size, it's too huge. And okay, change the leading also. Okay, and I have a heading also, so I'm just gonna put something here. Now this is a really nice feature in InDesign which quickly lets us just think about the layout and not worry too much about copying text from here and there. This feature, so every time you have a place where you want to see how the text is gonna look, you can simply fill it up with the placeholder text. And I want to increase the size of this. I want to treat it as a heading, so I'm gonna just use the shortcut, and maybe this needs to be smaller, and some extra leading. Okay, now how I imported this image, same as any other image. I'm just gonna delete it and then show you once again. So Control D, and I'm gonna go inside the project folder, go inside the logo and select the main logo, say open, and click and then drag from this corner. When I'm happy with the size of the logo, I'll just let go of the cursor, and there goes my logo. Okay, it's as simple as that. In upcoming sessions, I'm going to show you how you can seamlessly create a workflow which involves Illustrator, InDesign and Photoshop. So this image I have imported here. Right now if I zoom in, you will see it's very pixelated. So people who are new to InDesign may worry that why every time I am importing it in Illustrator it looks fine, in maybe the JPEG export it looks amazing, but when you import it in InDesign it gets pixelated and we worry that something went wrong. So do not worry, you just have to hit the shortcut Ctrl Alt Shift Y on the keyboard. Remember the shortcut Ctrl Shift Alt Y, Y for yellow. And that shortcut can also be found inside the view menu, and the very first option which you see is overprint preview. What InDesign does actually, while working, it shows you a lesser resolution preview, so that it doesn't be a heavy load on the processor, because you are quickly flipping through multiple pages and performing so many actions. The preview with all its quality is not so much relevant at this time. So once you are through everything, done with everything, and you want to see the overprint preview, then only hit that shortcut, and it's a toggle key. I can switch it off also. Control Shift Alt Y again, and I'm back to the normal view, and it's very fast, compared to the overprint preview mod. All right, so yeah, so I have showed you how to make this, how to create this. I'm just gonna quickly select these. Maybe these are the 3 type of accommodation the resort offers. You can add more details, make a nice looking flyer. You can add something here also, which says like 20% off or holiday discounts and all those things. I just leave it to you people, up to your creativity. Okay, now this particular place I have researched for putting social icons, and the way I'm gonna do that, I want you guys to learn that, because it's very interesting way of working with content in InDesign. So I'm gonna show you what do I have as social icons. So inside the logos, I have this one single image which has 4 icons in it. Okay, so what people would do, they would take it to Photoshop or Illustrator and try to isolate these 4 and then import in InDesign. So which is good, which is okay, but consider the amount of time you will be investing in that. So what I would do in this case is utilize the feature of InDesign. I can just simply select this one, okay, and say Control D and click on this one and then say open. Okay, now I'll use the content grabber and then just drag till the time I find the icon. But in this case, I see the size of the icon is humongous compared to the container we are trying to fit it in. So I'm just gonna get rid of it, and I'll simply just import the image as is without any container and then define a size for it. So this is all 4 of the images, and what we can do now, we can play around with the container by changing the size of it and just target it on one of the icons. In this case, I am going for the top left one, which is Twitter's icon. And when I once I am able to contain it properly within the container, then I can click on this button and then set the curvature. Okay, perfect. Now we have managed to isolate the Twitter's icon. Now I just need to hold Alt, make a copy of this one, then click on the content grabber and hold Shift and then push it. You can also use your arrow keys once you see this brown bounding box showing up. So the brown bounding box is for denoting that the content is selected. Okay, and I can use the arrow keys to fit the Instagram logo here. Okay, and refine it further by using the mouse buttons. Okay, all right, now I'm again going to make a copy of this one and select the content grabber and then push it up. Okay, and then make another copy of it and use the content grabber and push it right to reveal the LinkedIn logo. Oh, sorry. See, you have to ensure that the content should be selected, not the container. Perfect. So the same file, but all 4 different logos are isolated, and I'm gonna place it here. Okay, now let's hit W and then look at it in the preview mode. We have a nice looking at least we are in the middle of it. We can add more content here, we can add some lines here. So let's do that. I'm just going to use placeholder text to show how you can add more content. Okay, and we can have a detailed discussion on typography also later on someday. So let's stick along. Let's use it as a heading, multi-line heading maybe. Just put it there, let it seep it into the text a little bit. That looks inclusive and not dividing the space. We can also use the line tool, you know, told you about the line tool. It's feeling so left out, so let's create a line. And let's just change it in the strokes panel, and the type of the line, I'm gonna go for Japanese dots. Yeah, gives a nice feeling. So alright, yep. And if I intend to, let's push it down a little. I think it's too much at the top. And also the icons are looking very big, so how do I reduce the size of them? I have to hold Control, remember, because I just do not want to change the size of the container but the content inside as well. Then I have to hold Shift also, because I don't want to scale it out of proportion. So Control and Shift, and then drag. You can also make a group of these by hitting Control G on the keyboard, so that all of them get selected at once and moves along. Fine. We can have a list of things being added here. We can have a transparent box, and some heading going on here. We can give the email IDs and those things here. So I leave it up to you people to complete it, and then just upload it on your Google Drives and post the link in the comment section below the video, and just surprise me with your work. Okay, so that would be all for the today's session, and I'll see you in the next session, for which I'm going to inform you via different sources, via WhatsApp, or you can also find the same on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/avriti. I would request you to also subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon, so that next time I go live, you will be the first one to get the notification. Thank you so much, and I hope that you have learned something nice today. That would be all. Stay home.